again, but it's the only way.
Morning all, it is Sunday morning and it is NUFC Matters, another happy programme ahead, another hour ahead. It was great to get Mick on because obviously we missed out doing it on Saturday. Mick, how are you?
I'm very good, very happy, very smiley, as I think everybody black and white is this morning.
Yeah, 100%. And none more so than our very own Holly Blades, who is 17 today. Happy birthday, Holly. And she had a cracking day out yesterday at Brentford. And on her birthday of all days, she wants to do a programme. So she will be on tonight at 5 o'clock. And B, she's taking her very first driving lesson this morning. So good luck to her.
Bless her. 17 years of old. I don't even want to think about it. 17. I was still in the 70s, man. I was still in the 70s.
Oh. Great stuff. As always, we've got an hour for you to interact with me and Mick and tell us what you thought about yesterday's performance, what you're hoping for from the rest of the season, what you think about the SM and that little jaunt across to Monaco. Will he get back in next week? Should he get back in next week? Loads to talk about. Wonderful interview as well in The Athletic with our owner, Mirdad Gadusi. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but there's plenty to talk about. As always, your opportunity to ask me and make a few questions. I'll come to you first, though, Mick. Brentford away. Again, we talked about it last week. Looking ahead to it, you know, we with a little bit of trepidation. I think we're all still in that Mike Ashley era mindset, Steve Bruce era mindset of it's a 6-pointer. You know, we could go down there and Ivan Toney could do a number on us. Christian Eriksen's making his debut. All the emotion and that was going to bring. But Newcastle United went down there, and I've got to say, I've been to some away trips in London. I've seen some horror stories like you have. That was probably, in recent times, the most comprehensive performance, professional performance from a Newcastle United team I have seen in London for many, many years. And I've seen a couple. There's one or two that spring out. Robert scoring at Highbury and Newcastle winning 3-1 against Arsenal, go top of the table. But again, it wasn't a dominant performance. It was to and fro. Newcastle dominated that game yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, I think we have to be realistic about that, Steve. I mean, you're right in what you said, and if you remember, if you throw London into the equation as well, how the fact that once upon a time Newcastle going away to London used to be a nightmare. And I talked on Tuesday night, if you remember, about it is so important that they don't produce some sort of banana skin against Brentford, and that we need to compare it to Juventus and AC Milan and Manchester. You know, don't worry about the Brentford Community Stadium. We just need to do it properly. And they did it properly. But at the end of the day, again, going back to the realism, it was Brentford, Steve. It was Brentford who, as we all know, of their last 8 games, they'd won 7 straight. They'd lost 7 straight. They're in a real bad place. They're in a bit of a pickle. And then, of course, the killer for them, for Brentford, and the absolute key area as far as Newcastle are concerned is the fact that Josh Da Silva gets sent off after 11 minutes. Any team against anybody, if you lose a side after a team after 11 minutes, you're right up to it. And as soon as Brentford were down to 10 men, we set our stall out. We did it properly. We moved the ball around. They just had no way of coping with 11-man Newcastle United, who were playing well. They were playing confident. They were moving it. They were shifting it. It was, as you said there, very, very straightforward. But I wouldn't say that it was one of the greatest performances I've ever seen away from home by Newcastle United. But I'm so grateful. And I think I said on Tuesday, I would have even considered a draw against Brentford as important against drawing against West Ham, or even beating against one of those Evertons and those Aston Villas at St James's. Because this is what we're trying to become. We're trying to become hard earning. We're trying to become teams who keep sides at it, and certainly sides who are in and around them. So it was a fantastic performance. It really was a very, very impressive performance. As I say, the mitigating circumstances, the one in particular, the sending off, but they just did it. They did it so well.
The sending off definitely played its part. There's no doubt about it. I've got to be honest, watching Match of the Day when I got back at
it's a horror. It's a horror.
Mike Dean's face was a picture. I laughed out loud at that because he went as if to say, what, me? Make a mistake? Because, of course, he gave the free kick the other way. And it must have killed him walking to that monitor. And as he got to the monitor and he turned around, he was like, well, I was wrong. And not very often does that happen. And Mike Dean, had got to be said, had a cracking game for Newcastle yesterday, which I never thought I would say.
Absolutely. Well, he stopped. The difference was, Steve, that he stopped being, it's me, it's all about me, it's Mike Dean. He just concentrated on refereeing a game of football, which he's a decent footballer. If he referees about a game of football, if he just referees about Mike Dean, if he just wants to be Mike Dean, then we've got problems. And the other thing I would say as well is, I think the two of us sat about this maybe a month ago, 6 weeks ago, raging about VAR. And I think I said, don't worry, what comes around goes around. What comes around goes around. Now we've had 2 or 3 all of a sudden that have worked in our favour. And that was a huge, because nobody saw it. Nobody saw it first thing, the De Silva challenge against Target. They just didn't see it. And then all of a sudden, VAR had picked it out. As you said, the referee hadn't seen it. A couple of players hadn't really seen it either. But as soon as the red card was shown and you'd seen the replay, I mean, it was a shocker, an absolute shocker. Although, interestingly, I was talking to people who were saying that this Josh De Silva, he was an Arsenal boy as a kid. Another one of mates of Joe Willock, actually, who's not like that at all. So it's not a nasty challenge. It's just a mistimed challenge. But red card, it's just fantastic. I mean, Eddie Howe and the lads must have been thinking, perfect, absolutely perfect. Just set the stall out now, work it about. You've got a team who are poor. You've got a team who are low on confidence. And suddenly they're a man down. And we just worked it properly. Ryan Fraser was spectacular. And that was one of the key reasons. We just kept moving it left and right, moving it shift. Because as you know, if you're down to 10 men in a football team, then the area where you're going to struggle is wide, because you're trying to possess the center of the park. You're trying to keep bodies, because you're one down. You're trying to keep bodies in centre midfield, at centre back, whatever. So Ryan Fraser had an absolute fantastic time left hand side. He does he produces a fantastic cross for Joe Linton. And once we were 1 up, and then made it 2 with fantastic Joe Willock, it was done. It was done and dusted. It was done and dusted. I know Brentford made a little bit more of a game of it second half, but they just did so well, got themselves about it, and all of a sudden you're 14th in the table, and you're thinking, this is a different ball game. All of a sudden, it's a different world. It's a different sport, football. You just cannot believe the change in the last, a month, 6 weeks? Astounding.
Been amazing. Breaking news there. Thanks to Tony for sticking that up there. Sky confirmed that Bielsa has been sacked by Leeds. Probably the worst kept, story in football. That I've got to be honest, I quite like the guy.
Absolutely.
The impression that he left on those players to come up and then get up, after years in the wilderness. Not arrogant. I think a lot of people criticise him for not really picking up the English language and relying on the interpreter. But you know what? What a miss he'll be in the Premier League. Attacking football, went for the jugular, and good luck to him, whatever he does.
But I'll tell you what it's evidence of, and it's huge. This is a huge evidence of that. It doesn't matter who you are. If you're a manager, and if you don't win games of football, you're out. You're out the door. I mean, I'm told reliably by ex-colleagues of mine yesterday, said that you could barely hear a whisper in terms of protests against Bielsa from the Leeds fans yesterday. They were unhappy. Of course, they were unhappy. They were booing at the team. They were unhappy that they'd lost again. They'd been absolutely walloped again. But nobody apparently was screaming and bawling about about Bielsa. So that's a measure of the man. But the powers that be at a football club, it doesn't matter who you are. If you go long enough without winning a game of football, you're out the door. You're out the door. And which is why, let's be brutally honest. We were talking about, only 1 win of his first 10, Eddie Howe. And I remember I said, and I'm happy to say this, You know, had it gone another 6 or 7 games with only 1 win, then suddenly there would have been pressure. There would have been absolute pressure on Eddie Howe. As it happens, he's turned it round. We're 7 games unbeaten for the first time. 10 years since Newcastle went 7 games unbeaten in the Premier League. What a change. What a change.
Amazing. I mean, again, it was a wonderful team performance. If I was going to pick players out, again, another great solid performance from Big Dan Burn. Target, wow.
Yeah.
You know, another player who got stuck in. And Ryan Fraser ran himself into the ground. And Big Joe Linton, of course, you know, becoming a cult hero, and rightly so. I'm going to pick out Emil Kraft as well, because you know what? The kid came in. He got criticised quite heavily on social media by a lot of people for
I criticised him for West Ham. I thought he was poor against West Ham.
And Eddie Howe kept with an unchanged team, and he proved that, you know, he can do it. And it was a good performance from Kraft yesterday. Again, take your medicine. We were playing against 10 men, and I get that.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you know, it just shows the unity amongst the team is carrying players through, and he put a good solid performance in yesterday.
I saw the starting team, Steve, and do you know what I thought of straight away? This will make you laugh if you can come up with this. Who did I think of when I saw the Newcastle United starting 11? Paul Weller. Why was I thinking of Paul Weller? See if you can work this one out.
Well, I'm thinking of songs that Paul Weller did. The Changing Man was.
There you go. You're a spot on. So Paul Weller is the changing man. I said Eddie Howe is the exact opposite. Eddie Howe is Paul Weller's juxtaposition. Paul Weller is the changing man. Eddie Howe is the non-changing man. He's an absolute non-changer. You know, we talked about it on Tuesday. I said, you know, I couldn't see even again Lascelles coming back in for Shah and coming back in against Dan Burn. Even if ASM was fit, this was on Tuesday night. I said, I just think he'll probably go with Murphy again because Murphy's loyal. The one that I thought he might, Emil Kraft, was because Mankia might be fit again, and I just thought Kraft wasn't great against West Ham. And then I saw his interview on Friday night, Eddie Howe at the training centre, and I just, as soon as I heard him say, "We like Emil Kraft. He's strong. He's an international footballer," I thought, Emil Kraft staying in. There's no doubt. There's no changing man from Weller from the boy Eddie Howe again today. He's non-changing, and same again. And the only interest will be from the long-term future is Guimaraes, because he came in for half an hour, and I'm watching the game and I'm thinking, do you know what it is? This is perfect. Brentford are down to 10 men. You're 2-0 down. You're nice and comfortable. Don't do anything daft. But this is a perfect time. I was saying, bring Guimaraes on. And he did it. And he brought Guimaraes on. But interestingly, going back to the press conference on the Friday, he made a very interesting statement when he talked about how many games there are. Now, they've got 5 in 15 games in March. I think you'll find in one of the, even if we keep winning, even if we keep being unbeaten between now and then, I think that will be the time that Guimaraes starts a game, because we just need to. We've got too many bodies, too few bodies and too many games in the space of 15 days. So I think Guimaraes will come in and he'll start a game in the foreseeable future. But before that, just keep going, keep rolling it, keep the wheels rolling, keep the points accumulating. Suddenly you're 14th in the table. But even then, you look at it, Steve, there's only 4 points from 5 games, you know, from five teams. You know, Burnley are still picking away. Obviously, Everton and Leeds and Brentford are struggling big style. But there's still work to be done. So there's no point getting lackadaisical about, I'll have a mix with this and I'll have a little bit of go with that. No, just stick with it. Just stay with what it is.
Yeah, I would agree. Bruno came on. We had half an hour of him yesterday, and I've got to be honest, what I saw really, again, impressed me. And, you know, he just does everything so simply. And it's not out of question that potentially the Brazilian coach could be looking at this and saying, got a good potential centre midfield pair in there with Bruno and Joe Linton. Who would have thought that?
40 million. I have to say, Steve, I really have got to say, because, and I will hold my hands up, but I'll tell you what, I hope the other number of thousands and probably slightly more are holding their hands up as well, because I just, for the life of me, cannot work out what has happened with Joe Linton, because he's an absolute, he's a nugget now. He's a gold nugget. He's brilliant.
Could double my money on him now.
His attitude is fantastic. His work rate is fantastic. The header is an absolute belter of a header.
It's like Shearer.
It is Shearer. It is Shearer. You know, it's an absolute crackerjack of a header. You look at his attitude. I've got goosebumps watching him run to the Newcastle fans. I mean, almost, it's one of them, it makes you well up. I'm thinking, this is fantastic. I'm thinking, this can't be the guy who only 6 months ago, I honestly thought he was the worst player, pound for pound, I'd ever seen in a black and white striped shirt. For 40 million quid for a Brazilian, I honestly thought I'd see betters playing on the local rec. I really did, honestly. I thought I can't see a player, and I wasn't the only one. I see him now, and I think, is that Eddie Howe? Is it him? What is it? I've no idea what it is. I'm just very grateful that it is, because he's a proper player all of a sudden. You know, and you look at it, and I mean, the goal alone. You know, all this argument about actually he was never a striker. He was a midfield player, and Eddie Howe has managed to turn him round. And he's got him in a different vein, and he's doing things better, and he's working harder. But then he scores that header, and I'm thinking, I'll tell you what, he is a centre forward. He should be a centre forward, because he's let's put it this way, he's put a header back in that poor old Chris Woods can't score to save his life at the minute. So, you know, Joe Linton, I honestly, I scratch my head all day. But how grateful are we that we are scratching it? He's been amazing, absolutely amazing.
Yeah, been absolutely superb, and long may it continue. I've got to ask you about ASM. You know, he's an enigma. He's a maverick. We know all that. Been a vital player for us in the last couple of seasons, and obviously took a knock on the calf. Eddie Howe explained that. Bit of controversy, I guess, and as always, social media whips things up. You know, why is he in Monaco? He's too busy promoting his Helios brand. Why isn't he back for this game? And you know, I mean, Eddie Howe's dampened all the speculation. To be fair, the media haven't run with stories which are circulating, so you'd imagine there's no smoke without fire is one side, but the other side is, well, is this just all water off a duck's back? Is he just genuinely out there for treatment? What's your take on it? And I think you've already answered the second question. He's not going to walk straight back in next week, is he?
No, not at all. In terms of my thoughts, Eddie Howe, again, I've said this a million times, because I did it for 25 years. I just loved watching managers. I love watching managers. I love getting under the skin of managers. I love getting under the mind of managers. And I watch him every week, trying to get a pointer as to the way he thinks and the way he does and the way he talks. And he came out with that stat line that you've heard a lot of managers say over the years. And that is basically that the player needed to go away because he has a relationship with a medic, or a relationship with a physio, or a relationship with a specialist, either it be in France, whether it be here, I can remember famous stories. I can remember a named player who I won't name. Graham Souness told me one day that the player was sent to a witch doctor in Africa to see about an injury that he had. Witch doctor in the middle of Africa. So, if you think that the player can work, if you think that it's right in the player's head that he'll go from being somebody who wasn't a player and suddenly becomes a player because of this medical or witch doctor or physio or whatever. So I watched Eddie Howe do the question about so where's ASM? What's he doing? Why is he in France? And he stocks out yes, he knows this guy in France. You have to be honest enough of the manager to say, that is the reason. I'm not 100% sure. I'm not 100% sure. What I would say as well is, and I've mentioned this in the past, that ever since Steve Bruce left, ASM has not been the same player. And he's gone out publicly and said that he is indebted or was indebted to Steve Bruce. He clearly had a relationship of some sort with Steve Bruce. Now, whether he's just fallen out of the football club because the football club got rid of the manager who he endeared, he liked very much and was respected very much on, and that wouldn't be the first thing in the world. We said it last week, with Joe Willock. I mean, I think Joe Willock was struggling a little bit because he was indebted to Steve Bruce, who got him the deal from Arsenal. And you're a bit unsure as a player, what's this new guy going to be like? Somebody's just up the whole body, up my whole family back to the northeast of England. Suddenly, do I like it anymore? So Joe Willock has responded, but ASM seems to have a problem with it. So I think the thing, just generally saying, is that you wouldn't be surprised either way. The one thing I would say, going back to what you said, is at this minute in time, I have to say, as much as he can be incredibly talented when he wants to be, what Newcastle want and what Newcastle are doing at this minute in time, Steve, is they are being a fantastic team. A team, 11 of them, right back, midfield, up front, goalkeeper, all working together, all got the commitment, all got the camaraderie, all got, I used the phrase on Tuesday about band of brothers. They are becoming a band of brothers. If there's one exception of somebody who is a little bit of a one-off, then it's ASM. Now, there are occasions where you have to live with them. I talked about Shelvey. John Joe Shelvey can be a little bit irrational on occasions, but he's a very, very valuable player. But John Joe Shelvey isn't an ASM. He's not somebody who's likely to do all sorts of very strange things. He might be, as I say, he might be a little bit irresponsible on occasions, but he'll do it properly. He'll do it properly. ASM is a bit of a maverick, a complete maverick. And Eddie Howe, I can imagine, isn't overly impressed with Mavericks when what he needs at this minute in time are 11 players putting it together, putting a shift in, going to the Brentford Community Stadium, going back to St James's, getting a point, getting 3 more, getting another, going 7 unbeaten. You don't want the Maverick. You don't want the fella who's doing whatever he wants to do, whenever he wants to do it. So whatever happens to ASM long term is down to him, Steve, because if he wants to be a proper player, if he wants to be a huge football club called Newcastle United, he needs to buck his idea up. He needs to start being a regular and an integral part of this squad and of this team. And at this minute in time, he's not really that.
No, it's a great position to be in, though, isn't it? Literally
fantastic. You've got Guimaraes.
ASM was holding the whole hope.
And ASM, you would say you're talented. You're two bits of gold dust, and you don't need to touch them at the minute. And you're winning or certainly unbeaten week in, week out, week the other. It's a fantastic. It's an unbelievable situation going back to where we were 2 months ago. I mean, 2 months ago, Guimaraes would have had to have played 95 minutes every game. ASM would have had to have played with one leg 95 minutes every game in order to try and win a game of football, and probably more importantly, 6 months ago, have to try and concede 2 or 3 of the goals that we would be conceding at 2, 3, and 4. We've conceded 4 goals in 7 games. Before that, teams were scoring individually, were scoring 4 here, 3 there, 4 here, 3 there. Now we've got 4 in 7 games. Incredible.
Certainly is incredible. Okay, I'm going to come to this one that Tom's put up. He goes, Amanda and me had interviewed in The Athletic yesterday. They said they don't want to move from St James's Park. We want to expand St James's Park. I read that on the way down to Brentford yesterday, and it was a great interview, great insight. And again, look, more communication, Mick, from the owners. We've had more communication from these people from October the 7th to today's date, 27th of February, than we had from Mike Ashley and Lee Charnley and Derek Lambias and John Irving and whoever else you want to mention in 14 years. Incredible. And it was a great interview, I thought.
I would agree with it. I would agree with 85% of it, but I will put my media hat on, Steve. You know, you're sort of putting your fan hat on. You're putting on whatever hat you're putting on. I'm putting on my hard school media hat, and that is that you're absolutely 100% right. Communication is so much better. Mehrdad Gudusi and Amanda Staveley have done fantastic things. You know, they're out there a lot, particularly in social media. You see them at every game. You know, they clearly are proper people. They're committed to Newcastle United Football Club, and they do communicate. My argument, and this is my media hat on, and I have no problem whatsoever with Chris Waugh and George Colkin, who I love dearly. I've known George for years and years. Chris Waugh is a little bit more recently in the patch, but he's a fine writer and is a good fella. Knows his football inside out. So Chris Waugh and George Colkin I have no problem with. I do have a problem though with when on occasions the Newcastle United ownership, who we are falling over to try and hear from because they are so, you know, we can't get enough of them. We can't get enough of them. We're indebted to them. They've done fantastically well, the owners. But if they're going to do an interview like that, I don't think they should be doing it solely. They could do a group of media interviews. But The Athletic, at the end of the day, without being picky, is a subscription newspaper, subscription magazine, whatever you want to call it. So you have to pay for it. And I think that's unfair. I think that's unfair that thousands upon thousands of Newcastle fans will have seen the headline saying Amanda Staveley and Mehrdad did a fantastic interview with George Colkin. Here it is. And you watch about a sentence and 3 words, and then, here comes the money. Here comes the money. You've got to subscribe. So it's not the Cron, it's not the BBC, it's not whoever, Metro, it's any radio. It could be any local radio. It could be any local TV. It could be the Cron. It could be whoever. But that's what it should be. It should be somebody who is doing the interview for everybody, every black and white fan to be available, not just The Athletic. As I say, that is just me being I'd be doing me nut, Steve, if I'd been there 25 years ago for 25 years and somebody at the BBC or Metro said to me, Mick, have you heard that the ownership at Newcastle have done an interview at The Athletic? I'd go nuts. I'd be on the phone. I'd be on the phone to St James's. I'd say, Amanda Staveley, Mehrdad, please, at least do the radio, at least do TV, at least do the Cron. Let the punters, because you can't see the interview unless you pay for it. And that's wrong. So end of rant, if you like it, but end of rant. But they're fantastic. They are, you know, you hear what they have to say about St James's, Eddie Howe, Botman, you know, good issues. So yeah, people should try and get a look at it. I hope you're wealthy enough to be able to pay. It's not a huge amount of money. I'm not being picky, but I would much be happier if it was an interview that was available to the rank and file for nothing, because they dearly love it. And I'm sure the ownership must know that. They must know that by now they've got Newcastle. They've got them completely. They've got them in the lap of their hands. You know, use them because they are your people.
Okay, great stuff. Here's the ads. Thanks to all our sponsors. First up, Spider VPN. For all your internet security, Google Spider VPN. They are the boys to trust. They come up at the top of the Google network search. Thanks also to skipsandbins.com. Telephone 0800 25 45 25 3. Email inquiries at skipsandbins.com. Website www.skipsandbins.com. Easy, contract free and pay as you go. Waste collection. Thanks also to L&G Family Funeral Directors 01913897245. and to Garden of Healing Dispensary, CBD hemp and cannabinoid specialists, www.thegohd.com. Thanks to Arcot Interiors, you can Google them and they come up at the top of the search list also. You can also find them on Heaton Road, and they are currently hiring and looking for fitters. So contact Arcot Interiors if you are available to help them with that particular trade. qtechshop.co.uk are the makers of pool tables and snooker tables in Wallsend, Newcastle, and also the guys who run our website. Jab Signature, you can find them at jabsignature.co.uk. Thanks to Media Arts for all of our video editing. And thank you to newworkwear.com, the specialists in the supply and branding of clothing for the workplace, for providing me with my new jacket. And if you want to subscribe to the show, hit the Newcastle Legends logo in the bottom right-hand corner and you can subscribe for free. We still do 7 shows a week and we do some true crime stuff as well. Hit the thumb up under the video to like the video, click share to your social media, and drop into the comments box to speak to like-minded Newcastle fans or to leave a question. We're also available as a podcast on iTunes, Spotify, and other podcast providers. If you put your phone over this QR code, it will take you straight to our website and you become a Newcastle and UFC Matters member. You get a cup, you get a pen, you get a scarf, and entered into our monthly draw where you can win some fantastic prizes. We also do live events, and each pre-match and post-match you can find us at the Dog and Parrot, and Super Mac gives us a talk about the game ahead. There is good beer, and there is good music, and there is a pool table, and kids are welcome. So get yourself along to the Dog and Parrot each match day in Newcastle City Centre. We also support the food bank on this channel, nufcfansfoodbank.co.uk. You can find the matchday bucket, which is operational 365 days of the year, and you can make a virtual deposit. If you want to find us on Facebook, then just search NUFC Matters. We have a page and a group. And if you want to follow me on Instagram, search Steve Wraith. And if you want to follow me on Twitter, search @SteveWraith. A couple of other things just to point your attention to. We've linked up with these guys and it is football prizes. So if you go to the top of the chat, click on the link, you can enter into a raffle to win a St. Maximin shirt. So click on that link. I am doing a firewalk for the Bradley Lowry Foundation on the 14th of May. And if you want to join our team and be part of the world record attempt, then you can go to wrfirewalk.co.uk and join Team Wraith by entering code NUFCM at the checkout. Be good to see a few of you there. We have got our end of season due. It's a little early, but if you like a little bit of Morrissey and the Smiths and get yourself along to the Irish Club on the 17th of June, tickets available on Voucher and on Groupon. You can pick them up for around about £7.50. All proceeds, of course, go to the food bank. And we've come up with another food bank idea. We've got Everton away looming. It's a sellout away end. So we've knocked up these T-shirts. He's only got little arms. If you want to buy one, they're available now at nufcmatters.com. And get yourself a T-shirt, wear them with pride down at Goodison, and we're giving 50% of the proceeds from that to the food bank as well. So get yourself onto the website. And if you missed yesterday's show, I did a pre-record with Steve Howie. Great to have him back on the platform. Of course, he does Total Sport on Radio Newcastle each week, so you can catch him on there. The difference with this show was, although we were looking ahead to Brentford, the start of the show, Steve became the first player to name his dream team. Now, I am going to ask Mick to do this at some point, but this was great. This was great to have Steve Howie's views on who he wanted to pick. So watch it. It's a great watch. I'm going to get a few of the ex-players on to do exactly the same, and well worth a view.
I bet I know who he picked the keeper.
Go on.
He must be picking Shea. I was just about to say. I think everybody would have gone with Shea just about.
To be honest, and what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to go through them all simultaneously eventually and try and work out the ultimate team. But it should be good. And 260 dinner. I've got to give this a push as well. 260dinner.co.uk. Alan's big dinner, 7th of April at St James's Park, is selling quite quickly. So if you're thinking about it and and ahhing, I would say go to it. And get to the website and go and buy your tickets. 260dinner.co.uk should be a cracking night. Okay, we're going to dip into the chat.
I was just about to say, by the way, I've been meaning to say this for the last 3 times. Ever since you pre-recorded adverts, you had a beard. You're going to need to do another pre-recorded advert without a beard. You look ridiculous.
I've been putting it off and putting it off and putting it off. So I am going to do it. Yeah, I did. Somebody mentioned it in the chat the other day. Like, you know, it's an amazing change that Steve does when he does the adverts. But I will do it. Yeah, 100%. And okay, Alan Thompson, Steve and Mick, Paul Merson was trying his best to say it was a sending off until our Jeff put him in his place. It stuck in his throat that we won. Yeah, we've discussed pundits who don't like Newcastle, and he's certainly one of them. I mean, he just constantly has a bee in his bonnet, doesn't he? About Newcastle.
Do you know what it is? It's funny because I don't really tend to get involved with these sorts of things, and actually, I like Paul Merson.
You know a lot of these people as well.
I think you know, I think he's been through enough in life. He was a very, very good footballer. When I worked in London, I did a lot of Arsenal games for a while. He's a proper player. He's a proper player, but he has this. And at first I thought, well, okay, you know, 7 games unbeaten. And I just caught it, you know, I didn't catch any of Sky Soccer Saturday. I was too busy with the match itself. But when the match was finished, I went back onto Sky Soccer Saturday to have a look at what's been happening elsewhere. And Jeff Stelling says, well, so Merce, you were doing the Brentford Newcastle game. What do you think? I thought this will be interesting because, I mean, it was literally, with the exception of, you know, the Christian Eriksen story is lovely. Christian Eriksen came on and he gave Brentford a little bit of a help, and but Newcastle were dead and buried by then. The game was done. But I watched his little evaluation of the game, and he almost tried to give Brentford a chance of a draw. I mean, he almost said second half they were much better, and you know, had they got a goal, it could have been 2. And I thought, you've clearly got a mistake. You've got a problem here now, and this is where pundits or even just commentators, you just have to be honest, Steve. You have to be honest. I mean, I used to get all sorts of grief on occasions because you'd get critical about Newcastle, but you have to be critical because if you're doing a commentary in the middle of nowhere and the lads go back that night and they say, somebody told me you were brilliant yesterday and that Newcastle were fantastic. Me and the lads have been there all day to Brentford, and it was rubbish, So you've got to tell it as it is. You've got to tell it as it is. But Merson clearly now seems to have a problem with Newcastle, and for whatever reasons, he's lost the opinion. He's lost the right opinion, and he should have just yesterday have said, Newcastle are doing great at the minute. Yes, I might not be their biggest fan. I might be this. I might not be that. But they were head and shoulders better than Brentford. They were helped by a sending off after 10 minutes. But they've got a couple of good goals. They could have got a couple more quite easily. So, happy days for Newcastle. But no, he just kept banging on about how Brentford got better in the second half and Christian Eriksen, helped them and they might have got 1 and it might have got 2. Just let it go, Paul. Just let it go. Just let it go. The Newcastle ship has sailed. I think it's sailed. I think relegation's gone. I really do.
Yeah, I mean it's just an amazing turnaround, and I think we've just got to get used to this. Unfortunately, I've spoken to a couple of Man City fans that I know, and they said this is what happens, and says get used to a bit more jealousy as well. He says, and from various people and various pundits and other fans. He says, but he did finish it up by saying, just enjoy the ride. He says, because you're going to have a great ride now. You're going to have a great ride,
Here's an interesting thing. This is these weird things I think about because I heard somebody said yesterday, and I get it completely. They were basically saying this is 92, 93 all over again. This feels like deja vu. And and it made me smile. And I thought, do you know what it is? It's not far off it. But then I was thinking, do you know what it was? I mean, this is a bit of a philosophical thought about is 2022 30 years on from 92, 93? Now, how does Eddie Howe compare to Kevin Keegan? And how do the ownership compare with Freddie and Sir John? And then you think to yourself, well, KK was the Pied Piper, but actually, Eddie Howe, if in 1996, with Eddie Howe being the manager that Kevin Keegan was, we might have won the title because we wouldn't have been the Cavaliers. But then again, we wouldn't have been the Cavaliers in the first place with Eddie Howe. we've got Sir John and we've got Freddie, but we haven't got anything like the money that the ownership have here. So there's all sorts of little things flying around. And as much as you think this could be 92, 93, this could be the entertainers, this could be but then again, it's a different world nowadays compared to what it was 30 years ago. So I honestly, I think it's fascinating. I think now we're increasingly get to a stage where we're safe. What happens in the summer? What happens with the stadium? I mean, you see, going back to the Athletic interview yesterday, Steve, tell me about this. The interview seemed to say that they will stick to the sacred soul of St. James's Park, but they would redevelop the new stadium. Yes?
Yeah.
How? What do they do to the East Stand that Sir John, that Freddie and everybody else tried to sort the East Stand out? You can't sort it out.
Well,
the Gallagher's not easy either because of the work underneath with the railways, etc., the shifts of coal mines, etc. So it's a difficult one to do.
I've shared this on here before, but when I was the fans liaison officer at the club, David Stonehouse gave me the position, and I sat in his office one day, and he showed me the plans for the East Stand.
Right.
And the reason it was never done is because essentially it would have cost the same to build that stand up as it would to build a new stadium. The maths didn't work, and money.
But does it not come down to light of sight?
Essentially that building behind the old student accommodation is now owned by a Saudi businessman. Now, those plans which David Stonehouse showed me would still have to be implied. So they would have to be implicated. So you would have the front fascia of the listed buildings incorporated within the stand. So the windows and doors would need to be the windows and doors going into the stand. So that is the only way around it. I think it was in the region of £20 million to build that stand. That was back in 2000. But that really is the only way you could do it.
But very quickly, when you say Saudi ownership, that cannot have been there when David Stonehouse was there, sure.
No, it wasn't owned by the Saudis then. It's a Saudi businessman who owns that now.
Right. Okay.
Nobody connected with Newcastle United, but it's a Saudi businessman.
Okay.
And of course, the land behind the obvious now is to extend on the Gallagher and get to 62 to 65,000.
But that's been a problem as well.
It has, but the people who bought that land behind St. James's Park, the company's now gone bust. So that could or should be in the hands of somebody now who either is willing to deal with Newcastle or it could be in the hands of Newcastle. Who knows? Okay. I think that will happen. I think there will be an extension on the Gallagher, and that will be because the
bottom line is that the Leazes End and the Milburn cannot be touched. I mean, you couldn't go any higher. I mean, it
would be ludicrous.
It'd be ridiculous. I mean, if level 7 became level 10, I mean, you'd be in Mars, But it's the East Stand. So if there is an issue on the East Stand, okay, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, it's going to be interesting. It's a nice problem to have if you're going to have more fans coming in. What about Abramovich? I've got to ask you about this. I know it's a Newcastle United podcast, but let's talk about this. It's horrific what we're seeing in the Ukraine. A megalomaniac, out of control. Very similar to a little small guy who tried to do the same in Europe back in the 1940s. And now we're in this position again, which is ridiculous, but we're having a look at this. Abramovich, of course, as we all know, owns Chelsea, but he made a rather bizarre statement yesterday, which looks as if he's managed to,
wheedle it out,
cover his back and wheedle out. Yeah, what did he make of that?
To be honest, I will probably just give it a bit of a swerve. What I do know is obviously that sooner rather than later, anybody who has Russian investment in this country will get a knock on the door. Or will certainly be looked at heavily. Now, Roman Abramovich is one of those. Now, if allegedly, all he's doing is making sure that whatever investment he has been pushed into another area of Chelsea Football Club, then maybe that is the issue. I don't know. I don't know whether Roman. I mean, clearly, what Roman Abramovich clearly isn't do is he's not see you later. He's not leaving Chelsea Football Club. He has not said, I want it available. He's not doing a Mike Ashley. He's not saying to Mike Ashley, somebody else is available to buy Newcastle United if they want it. Clearly, Abramovich doesn't want that. But what he has done and what he's clearly doing is he's moving his investment into Chelsea FC into something else called Chelsea X, Y, and Z. Now, the reason for that may well be that it's a very delicate situation for Chelsea Football Club and for Roman Abramovich while what is happening at the Ukraine at this minute in time. But it's a real delicate issue. And Roman Abramovich won't be the only one. I mean, there is a huge, especially in London, there is huge swathes of wealth from Russia in London. Now, Chelsea Football Club are just one of them. So let's just see what happens with the Ukraine. I must admit, yesterday I did dig out a little badge I bought in 1997 when we had the 2-2 against Shevchenko and Rebrev. Fantastic 2 or 3 days at Kiev. It wasn't the best country in the world at that time, but they were getting they were getting themselves together. Obviously they were no longer part of the USSR, and it was a great 2 or 3 days. And I remember, and I've got this little pin badge, and I've got this pin. I've put it on my Facebook page, and I always thought at the time that it was a pin badge of Dynamo Kiev with Shevchenko and Rebrev and the 2-2 draw against Johnny Beresford, who got both goals. But I looked at it yesterday, and it is actually a pin badge that says Ukrainian Independent, and it has the date in it. And I think it's something like the 24th of August 1991, when they became a free state. They became a country outside of the old USSR. And it's a very pertinent little badge that I saw yesterday. So if anybody wants to see it on my Facebook page, it's a lovely little pin badge. But fair play to them and everybody. But everybody is praying for those who stay safe in the Ukraine, and we sort out what on earth the Russians and Putin are doing at the country of the Ukraine.
Yeah, let's hope everybody's safe out there. I've got to ask your reviews on another Geordie legend, mate, that we lost this week, and that, of course, is Steve Black, Blackie. Well known round the doors. Was a doorman like me in Newcastle back in the day in the old 1960s and 70s. Cracking lad. Obviously played his part in Newcastle United and, of course, Newcastle Falcons, and was a mentor to Johnny Wilkinson, who went on to bring the World Cup home for England. But it was a sad loss a couple of days before his 65th birthday.
Yeah, I mean, I touched upon him on Tuesday night and said, R.I.P. and his family then. But just to reiterate what I said on Tuesday. You go to football clubs nowadays, this is 2021, so we're talking about a different world to sort of 25, 30 years ago when Blackie was there with KK, and then he involved in the Falcons, and then he created the myth that was Johnny Wilkinson. Johnny Wilkinson went from being a very fine kicker with rugby union and the Falcons and England to become, he was the guy. Johnny Wilkinson, everybody in the world knew about Johnny Wilkinson, and they knew about the way that he had the little posture before he took his kicking, etc. And that was Steve Black that did that. That was a lad from the northeast of England who developed with Johnny Wilkinson this ability to focus his mind on kicking, doing something as very simple as kicking balls through, posts of football. And Johnny Wilkinson, then the British Lions, then the Newcastle Falcons, obviously, of course, the Newcastle United, and then later on with Steve McLaren. But what he did was, and going back to the point about 2021, Nowadays, there's coaches left, right, and centre. There's computers. There's this. There's that. There's technology. There's everything to try and create the ultimate availability to a player to try and get the best out. Their best performance on the playing pitch, whether it be rugby, whether it be football, whether it be spin. I tell you who I thought of: the 15-year-old Russian figure skater. The Russian figure skater, the 15-year-old, the poor lass who ended up losing the gold medal at the Winter Olympics. I was thinking to myself, do you know what? Steve Black had sort her out. Steve Black would put an arm around her and say, right, this is about the psychology and and the ability of putting out your best performance. And that's what he did. And he was years before his days. He was doing things for Johnny Wilkinson. He was doing things for footballers. He was doing things for sportsmen. He was getting in their heads. He was sorting them out. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant fella. And such a loss.
Yeah, he is 100% thoughts with his family, as we've said on a couple of shows this week. Okay, coming up to the last 7-8 minutes of the show. Newcastle back in action, of course, next weekend. And it is Brighton who travel to St James's Park. And wow, I mean, 7 games unbeaten now. We've discussed it at the start of the show. But this is a great opportunity, Mick, really, for Newcastle to keep that run going. No need for complacency. I'm sure Eddie Howe won't allow that to happen. And, at the moment, it just has a feel that the only team that can beat Newcastle United are Newcastle United themselves. But, yeah, next Saturday, 3 o'clock kickoff. What do you want to see? What do you expect to see?
Well, I think we said on Tuesday, how well they played against West Ham, and I think I said, after West Ham, you get on the bus, you get on the plane, you get at training on the Monday. All they want to do is play again. So after the score against the draw against West Ham, let's get to Watford. Let's get to Brentford. Now that they've won Brentford, they've won well against Brentford. Now they want to play Brighton. Now they want to go again. They want to get closer. Suddenly they want to get from 14th to 13th. Suddenly now we're next behind are Leicester City. So suddenly you've got carrots dangling left, right, and centre. Yes, you have to keep an eye on Brentford, Leeds, Everton, Burnley. It looks increasingly that Norwich City and Watford are probably going to go now. And obviously, I think I suggested on Tuesday night that I did think Brentford might be the ones to go. And having seen enough of yesterday, I'm beginning to think maybe their race might end up being run, because I think Leeds, and now that Bielsa's gone, they might get somebody in to try and just give them a lift. Everton, I think, will get a lift. Burnley and Sean Dyche. I mean, Burnley have picked up this Dutch striker for half the money that we got for Chris Wood, and he's starting to do things. So, I mean, in a strange way, Sean Dyche might be thinking it wasn't the worst thing in the world to get £25 million on Chris Wood and getting some new investment, to get some new bodies, to get a new face in the body. Against Burnley, for Burnley. So let's see what they do. But at this minute in time for Newcastle, it's about being a proper football club again. I was thinking this morning, Steve, it's about 3 things. It's about hard work. It's about hard work, because that's what's happened for the last 6 weeks, 2 months. Hard work. The staff and the players have worked hard. The owners have gone out and spent £90 million and have communicated with the football clubs. And of course, the fans themselves, even by their own standards, have been outstanding ever since the new ownership came in. The noise at St James's, away games. So you've got the fans doing it, you've got the ownership doing it, and now you've got players and staff all putting it in, all working hard. It's perfect. Even at a football club, you don't get all 3 of those equations. You might get great fans, but your players and your manager might not be too good, and your owner might not be too good. Sometimes your players and your owners might be trying it in, the fans might be trying it in, but the owners, as we know at Newcastle, Not bothered either way. Nottingham Forest, not a million miles from here. How many? They go through owners left, right, and centre. 20 years they've been out of the Premier League. Sometimes you can get 2 or 3 of the equations. At this minute in time, we have all 3 of them. We have the staff and the players doing it in. We have the owners doing it in. And of course, we have the fans doing it in. It's a perfect, at this minute in time, proper football club. It's back to the proper football club it was 10, 15, 20, 25 years ago. So bring it on against Brighton. And what'll be nice as well, because all of a sudden you've got West Ham away and you've got Brentford away. Now, with 7 games unbeaten for the first time in 10 years, you've got 52,000 to absolutely belt it out against Brighton, and they will belt it out because they can't wait. It's almost like you've got a popular, it's one thing having a club that you love and a club that you want to see, but you only get to see them once every 2 weeks. And you're looking forward because you don't want to you can't go to Brentford. It's only 1,300 at Brentford. You can't get to West Ham. But what you can get through your season ticket is the chance every fortnight to see the black and whites run out at St James's. The noise against Brentford, having done what they've just done for the last 7 games, it'll be unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Yeah, it will be. Rafa to Leeds. What do you think about that? Junior Turner suggested it. Life Goal says Rafa might be a wise move for Leeds, albeit he's not what he was. His ideas are a bit archaic now. He's getting increasingly difficult for players to work with, by all accounts. But I mean, it's a big shout. He's a big name.
I think I saw a name this morning, Steve, about an American. Didn't know his name. Hadn't heard of him. But I'm told he's in the frame. And what I would say is, if you've got a manager like Bielsa, I mean, how on earth do you replace somebody for Bielsa? I mean, he's a complete one-off. I mean, you've got to rip it up and start again, haven't you? You know, they're playing murder ball. He's doing this, he's doing that, he's doing the other. So it's gonna take them, I would have thought, 2, 3, 4 games to come back into the building with a completely new manager, with a completely new thought of mind about what you do with your players, what you do tactically, because he's a complete one-off, a complete maverick of a manager, Bielsa. So I think that's probably one of the reasons why they've done it now, because if they leave it any longer, I don't think you can get another replacement for Bielsa in unless you give yourself at least a month to get a new owner in the football club.
Prediction for today's cup final? Tom Dixon's asking.
Not bothered either way. Would probably quite like Liverpool.
Yeah, me too. Definitely want to see them win. And a quick prediction for Newcastle Brighton.
I think Brighton and Hove Albion. I'm gonna be me typically. If I could have one thing more than anything over the last 7 games, I would want a couple of goals from Chris Wood, and I would want us scoring a couple of goals. As much as I love the fact that we've only conceded 4 of our last 7, we're not scoring goals. We're not scoring goals, and we're going to need to score goals. And I would love to put 2 or 3 on Brighton at St James's. I can't see it at the minute in time. I think we'll win. 2-1, 2-0. But I would love Chris Wood to get a couple of goals. And us get 3 or 4 and have a really, really good end beginning of March and into the Easter.
Yeah, me too. That will be great. I am back tonight, 4:00 with a birthday girl. Holly is going to pop on and do a show, so join us in a bit of a pre-cup final build up. Come and watch us then, and the 5-minute or fans forum or 5-minute rant, whatever you want to call it, will be back tomorrow. Me and Mick will be back Saturday, if that's okay with you, Mick, to look ahead to the game next week. Fantastic, mate. Take care. Have a good week.
You're welcome. See you later. Take care.
Critics attack. It feels like I've been talking to myself again.